All right, we are live, and I will wait the 5 to 10 seconds it takes for YouTube and StreamYard to start talking to each other to make sure that I am visible. Seems like things are kind of working, but I'm not getting a connection. Hold on. Why am I not getting a connection? Oh, there we go. There we go. Sorry about that, but apparently StreamYard and YouTube didn't want to talk to each other for a minute. So thanks everybody for stopping by. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Rabyd, your host, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Today is Rapid Fire, answering your burning questions. I will answer questions from the chat, discussion. I leave a lot of the topic selection and all that jazz to you. Very brave on my part if you really think about it. But yes, but before we get started with all that, let's see who's here. Fred. Welcome, Fred. We have our cranky elder God. Welcome, cranky. Lisa is here, although I wish the emojis would show. Ronald is here. The mighty Filbert has arrived. And Michael Wolf. So, there's actually, cranky, there's no evidence for that whatsoever. That's one of the big foibles of Luke. I think I did that when I talked about Luke in my discussion on questionable witnesses. As I go through the life of Christ as presented by the Gospels, when I hit that passage, it's completely wrong. So, like, there's never been a historical evidence of any census. Why would you need them to go back to their ancestral homeland? It seems like a plot device to get Jesus into Bethlehem because he was a Nazarene. My next episode of Questionable Witnesses, I'm going to hit Mark for the first time, and Mark he's Jesus of Nazareth, and supposedly the Messiah is supposed to be born in Bethlehem, and so according to the Messianic traditions, and so basically, in my opinion, Luke retconned him in, changed the story to retcon it in, and Matthew does much the same. So no, but they don't. There's no evidence that. Why would you need to do that? If you want to do a census, you would want a census of what the existing population is, where they're at, and so Joseph and Mary would have showed up on the census rolls of Nazareth, not Bethlehem. So I don't know, and you have differences of story anyway. So it's one of those things I point out to Christians when they want to say their Bible's completely consistent with no contradictions. It's like your own Gospels have contradictions about Jesus's birth narrative. So, but yeah. Hey, Wolf. And Azho is here. Azho, how are you doing, my friend? You don't speak much, and I worry about you. Hey, Kyle. Good to see you. I'm announcing your presence. Yeah, you don't have to. It's one of the things I do. I like to do a roll call. Somebody asked about Durante Lamar's video about why he doesn't do debates, and I haven't had a chance to watch the whole thing, but I got through the first minute, and I'm like, wow, I completely agree with him. So this is why I don't do debates, which is when you do a debate with a Christian, you're basically saying that them pulling the rabbit out of the hat. I like the way he started that. Whenever we all applaud like something actually happened, and that's because it's a show and it's a magic show. But in a similar way, if I were to debate a Christian, I almost feel like I would be acknowledging some level of credibility of their message in the first place. So yes, it's one of those reasons why I don't do it. So, but I have others, but it's not my thing. Hey, Dave, I saw your video. Good stuff. That guy, I've always been bothered by that guy. So there's that. Oh, man. Wolf. Oh, but yes. But yeah, I don't debate for a lot of the same reasons. I'm sure I'm gonna, as I watch the rest of it, I'll probably agree with him. Me and Durante have been, we almost appeared on Tim Mills together on Ask the Pastor. In fact, Ask the Pastor was Tim Mills's idea, and me and Durante were supposed to be the first guests together, but we never got that to happen. And it's kind of one of my still wish list items to be on a show with Durante. So, true story. Yes, very true. That depends on what you mean by Abrahamic theology. My theology degree is kind of like dipping my toe into a lot of different theological forms and systems. I know how theology is done, and that's why I can say that it's in large part bullshit, because it begs the question. So the whole science of it, quote unquote, the science of theology, they call it, or art, depending on your viewpoint. But I guess it depends on what you mean by Abrahamic theology. If you're talking about, there's certain doctrines that are attached to Abraham, depending on the thing. So, oh, see, captive. I have to congratulate you on my own channel here. I think Dave broke 500K, so he has memberships now too. So he's graduated to a certain level, and if you want to support some pretty good content, Dave over at Captive Desk definitely does some good work. He has some good streams too. I wish I could participate more, but time constraints, and he's doing his stream with toasters flying around, and I'm doing mine with rabbits flying around. So, so there's that. Yeah, atheist theology is really easy. It really is. Hey, Earl. Good to see you. Yes, I got the here. I can't. I have to show these another way, because for whatever reason, StreamYard will not show your chat as it is for some reason when it has the emojis. I have to figure that out, and I still haven't done it. But I added 2 new ones. We have the crying onion. Let's see. These are Mormonians, is what me and Earl have started calling them, as Mormonians. So Mormon and onion. And then we also have the Binky one. So so there's your options for onions emojis that are added. I can have, at current membership level, I can have 13 of these bad boys. So emojis, and we're up to 8. So it'll grow as we grow, but keep that in mind. So thanks for that. But yeah, and this all comes from this lovely photo that Earl did representing Mormonism. So this lovely, and this is all the cleaned up, finalized version with all of Earl's details done. So, and you need to check fangs for onion breath. I think that's why all the babies are crying. They lost a brother or a sister or something. So, you know, to be fair to fangs, he just didn't know. So there's that. Yes. Let's see. Lee had something. I met a Christian who said that if everything is not true in the Bible, then you could prove Jesus didn't exist. She would still believe in him. Yeah, that's the power of faith. All that tells me, Lee, is the emotional connection to faith is strong. I mean, Christians project a lot on us atheists because they sit there and say that we left for emotional reasons. I would argue that that's projection because I think a lot of people stay in the faith for emotional reasons. It doesn't have a lot to do with logic or reason. You know, if you're trying to logically prove a God exists, it falls flat almost every time. So there's that. Yeah. Oh. Angels and demons this week. Oh, right up my alley. I'll have to I'll have to stop by. After being a Pentecostal all those years, Dave, it's just angels and demons are just every. So there's that. Yeah. Yeah. See, this is why I like you, Earl. You notice details. I don't notice this stuff. I've told you before, my artistic talent is in evaluation. I don't do art. I used to, but I would take like a week to do one piece, and it's just it because I'm too much of a perfectionist with it. There's a point where you can be too much. So yeah, I to go back to that idea, I am now firmly convinced that if you're totally rationally assessing a faith, you're not going to come up with a good rational assessment of faith or religion. And so there's a deep bonded emotional connection to any religion that a person has. And if you could prove every factual element of their faith was wrong, they would still hold to it. And that's the power of that. I mean, I stayed with my faith for a long time for simply all that. You know, it's like onion jeffs. Yeah. I have some historical theology under my belt. History and beliefs of the Abrahamic religion. So that would be all three of them, which would be, I mean, I know some of the history of some of them, but like actual Judaism is kind of the product of Zoroastrianism and a few other things and their own religious beliefs combined. And you don't really get a consolidation of Judaism until like 600 BC. Okay. So when they're running around with their messianic prophecies at the time of Jesus, supposedly, they're still a pretty young religion by most religious standards. And then you have, you know, the whole connection to Abraham. The problem with Abraham is he's either a very legendary figure or a complete fiction. So that's kind of the problem with him. And then you have Christianity that comes out of that, and then later Islam comes out of both of those. So it's the problem with the Abrahamic religions. The reason they work is they're very political. Like they definitely lend themselves well to political ideology. Okay, and like if you look at the history of Israel's laid claim to a certain spot of land in the Middle East for years based on a religious claim. You have Christians who now lay claim here in the United States that they're the foundation of our government and the foundation of the country, and that you wouldn't want a country without Christians. And, Islam, everywhere they go, they consider that land now claimed by Allah. So it's like all of it really, the Abrahamic religions really, if there's one theological bind that I see in them, is they all seem to have this political bent. Okay. And that seems to be their history as well. Like why did Judaism come about? Well, they wanted to lay claim to, Palestine. Okay. Well, the Persians and all those guys were around. If you look at the Old Testament as a political document, it makes a hell of a lot more sense. So, and then Christianity comes along, and of course they have to find a way to, take over the entire Roman Empire. And then Islam, same, Muhammad wasn't exactly a man of peace. Okay. So, it's like over and over, you have these Abrahamic religions. If there's a theological thing, it's like always connected with a political activism. Okay, I don't think they can escape it. So, but that's my opinion. Okay, on it. But am I an expert on that? No. Do I know enough about it to understand it? Yes. So, yes, I would agree to that, Philbert. They took it to a whole new level. It's yeah, childhood indoctrination, but there are people that give their heart to Jesus as adults, and it's usually because of some crisis in their life. It's funny because I will get that comment by theists all the time that I only left because I had that literally the last stream I did. This person coming on here said, what, you got hurt by something and you left. And it's like, no, you got hurt by somebody and ran to a religion. It's more your problem than mine. But you could probably sum it up in one sentence. There's no good evidence for a God, so therefore I don't believe in one. So, hey, skeptically. Hey, Grumpy. You're willing to give it a try? Yeah, me too. Yeah, kind of. I mean, let's be fair here. Let's also look at all three of these religions. They fight each other, and within each other, they fight each other. Okay, if there's ever a theological systems that have created a lot of reasons to divide and hate each other and kill each other over a long period of time and torture each other and oppress other people, it's been the Abrahamic religions. I'm not saying the other religions aren't guilty of it, but holy cow. Okay. So I think there actually is a Harry Potter official religion. I know that there are people that follow like Jedi philosophy and Star Wars and stuff. And so, yeah, there might be one. There might already be one there, Ronald. I would look it up on the internet because there probably is a Harry Potter religion of some sort. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm glad I gave you a good explanation. My largest issue with Abrahamic theology is it always is done in a political context. Like the Christians, when you look at Christianity, it's done in this messianic context of Israel and waiting for their Messiah. And then the Christians come along and claim that Jesus of Nazareth is that Messiah. Okay. So, and it's all political about throwing the Romans out and everything. And Islam, same thing. Muhammad never had great success with his religion until he decided to spread it by force. So it's like there's always this political bent to Abrahamic theology. So I don't think they're going to escape it. Yes, there is big time peer pressure in the United States to join some form of Christianity. I know that from some of my friends. I don't know, Cranky. I don't think that Christians would view it that way, but I understand the nature of your question as an elder god. I can relate to what you're saying. I get it. But yes, yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yes, it's still my dad is stronger than your dad. Oh, mighty more dude. Yes, the dudism religion. There are several atheists I know of that have credentials to do weddings in that religion. It's a great one because it proves how absurd a religion is because you can make a religion out of anything. I look at Scientology and it was basically done on a bet. So, all right, yeah, I'll put them in and change them out after the stream's over. It's a little difficult to do during. So, yeah, pastafarianism. See, it brings up the whole issue of I can create a religion and make it work, and people will believe it. And, so what I think Pastafarianism and Dudism really do is they demonstrate so easily how easily you can create a religion out of any philosophy you want. And yeah, that's still true. There's Masons in my town where I live. So I don't know if it's the business pressure anymore so much as wanting to belong to something. So I'm not sure. I've had people who were atheists who were also Masons. So I guess I would ask them what they thought about it. I think me and Earl have a person that we had on her birthday stream that was a Mason. Their father was a Mason, and he knew a little bit more about it than I did. Yeah, I saw that. You're starting an hour early. All right, maybe I'll be able to make it for an hour and a half then. Yeah, see, that's why I think people who are older who give themselves to a faith and have this big conversion story. The two places I noticed it most was when people had a crisis, like somebody very important to them died and they wanted to see them again, or they, something traumatic happened in their life, like a child's death or something, and then they would run to it. The other one was like addiction. And like we had Teen Challenge for years, and what they did, I think they're still around. And what they basically do is they replace the addictive behaviors with religion, with Christianity, this personal relationship with Jesus stuff. So you're talking two psychological needs: one to stop a crisis, and the other one to fulfill an addiction. I've seen this over and over. And we had this discussion about, why is there so much sexual infidelity within certain sects of Christianity? Well, it's the same place in the brain, so they get stimulated. So, okay. So basically what you're saying, Michael, is you want to give back the defective parts to Jesus. Yeah, I think, I don't know. Oh, the things that people say that they shouldn't really say. So, Our Lady of Eternal. Yes, I remember that. And I about died laughing because it shows to me how easy it is to get a tax exempt religion. Like, it doesn't take much to create a religion. Like, I could create a religion, and maybe we'll create the Rabyd Atheist cult, where we worship chocolate bunnies and all that stuff, and I could get a tax exemption if I went far enough with that. So, yeah, 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 he did get away with a lot. Yes, I mean, this is my favorite new religion. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, leap be upon her, more hen. I just it. I love the way he does that because it illustrates the absurdities of religion. Like, you can make up a religion about anything. And so when people tell me they're religious, I'm like, what particular brand and flavor are you? Because it's probably their made up stuff. So, oh, yeah, that can still exist, Ronald. Um, I could tell you some stories about running for politics. I've held school board positions twice, one on my local board and one on the intermediate school district board, which in Michigan they service multiple school districts with certain stuff. So there's that. But yeah, there's that aspect of it. But one of the things around here that's a problem for me, and where I learned how if there's one thing Republicans and Democrats agree on, is making sure they don't have any competition. And that was one of the things that helped me discover. Was like I was looking at county commissioner and discovered that if I ran as an independent, I had to get 40 signatures to do that. But if I ran as a Republican or as a Democrat, a registered Republican or Democrat, I could sign the petition myself and turn it in with one signature. That's part of the problem too. So there's a lot of that going on. So yes, I can see if your Masons are strong in that area, yeah, they could probably still have some influence on who gets elected. So fear of death, yes. Yes, we could also do. We could also do. Like, see, I don't know. Could we make Fangs into a deity, Earl? Is Fangs a deity? Is he? I mean, he's got a lot of special vampiric powers. I suppose we could do that. I'm glad you're fine, Michael. But your joke is hilarious because it's like you got to give Jesus your heart, and it's like, can he have my artificial valves and clogged arteries with that? So there's that. Yes, the new Jesus. Yes, chocolate bunny worship. Where do you sign up? I'm just saying. I've been trying to figure out what my ridiculous religion is so I can illustrate the ridiculousness of religion to people. And I'm just, I'm figuring that Fangs would make just as good a deity as Rainbow, Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe. I mean, come on. So I think Fangs would do a fine job as a deity. So, yeah, we do have a tendency to be too honest. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Fangs as a deity. I've got to come up with some theology though behind Fangs, why he exists as a god. So let's see. I just came across, but I'm seeing YouTube Christians trying to dictate to others like me where to go and who I should or shouldn't support. Quite frustrating. Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes to an earlier discussion I had on the stream about there's a nature to Christianity that tends to get political and ideological and push that ideology or politics. And so it's not surprising to me, but you know, um, but yeah, I get it, and I get the frustration. When I was a Christian, I opposed like Christian nationalism in my own country, and people say, "You're a Christian. Why do you?" I says, "Because I know what Christians do to each other. If one group of them gets into power and the other isn't in power." I mean, Voltaire made a lot of good statements about that. He preferred, the English system of tolerance compared to the French system of the Catholics getting their way all the time. So, yeah, Fangs nibbled for our sins. Oh, yes. Nom nom. But yes, I mean, I think we can graduate Fangs to a deity level. I mean, he can be a demigod status. You know, see, the beauty of rabbit theology at that point is it can be all based on bunnies, and we can go right into the Easter holiday because we can start claiming that the whole bunnies and eggs thing is stolen from the Fangs religion. So we can do that. I mean, you know, I mean, our sacred statue can be the chocolate bunny, and on the list goes. I can make this. I can do this. I've always wanted to, practice doing a cult. Let's do a real cult. And my whole point, and the same with the skeptic, the reason he does that is to illustrate the absurdity of the whole thing. Okay, the absurdity of religious views. And I'm absolutely down with that. If we could create another religion to do that, that's good. But bunny ears is our sign. Yes. The only proper way, however, to do bunny ears is behind somebody's head. So I will have to figure out how to do that. See, I've got Earl going already. between Fangs eating various vegetables that represent different religions and all that. So, but yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I'm going to close the poll under the post tab for which religion to do next in about 15 minutes. Okay. And I'll announce the winner at that point. So if you haven't voted in that yet, go to the post tabs and vote which religion you want Earl to artistically represent next. So, but yes, I'll work on the theology of Fangs and we'll see what we can do. I'll probably just make it up on the fly, but and it'll be contradictory, but that's pretty true of most theology and religion anyway. So it'll fit right in. People will say, but that's contradictory. And I'll say, yes, like most religions. So, so it'll be great, but yes, but I'm going to give it like till 6:45 and I'll close the polls on what Earl's in case you haven't voted yet. But we do have a clear winner so far, unless somebody wants to change that. So, but yes, but we're going to make Fangs into a deity. I think he deserves demigod status at this point. So, big bunny moon for rabbit kind. Oh, I know that, and I just don't know it. You may have to tell me, Fred, to jog my memory. Oh man, but yes. Well, I mean, see, I'm going to start. I'll make the claim Saturday that the whole rabbit thing has been a nod to Fangs all along. It's been a prophetic nod to Fangs at Easter time with the rabbit the entire time. That this has been the prophecy of his coming. So every year at Easter time they do it. So. Oh, thank you, Cranky Elder God, along with the bunnies. Just so you know, I've kind of entered the mode of I'll put up a goal every stream. It's kind of me supporting the channel, you supporting the channel. I got a hat reveal for Saturday. I hope the hat that I ordered arrives because it's absolutely hilarious, especially for Easter. So I hope it arrives on time. If not, we'll do it. But I'm moving into the realm where a lot of YouTubers do it with their streaming. Like I'm depending on you guys for support, and I'm not going to do any ads. So my streams will be brought to you ad free based on the generosity of the donors. So thank you very much for that, Cranky Elder God. If it's okay for wanting to go to hell. Did you politely inform them that hell may not exist? In fact, there's a high likelihood it doesn't exist, seeing it's never been proven to exist. Oh, I see. This is. I hate to say this. This is just like such a fear tactic, and it pisses me off. To be honest, Alex. I would have asked them, "Are you okay with the idea of hell existing for everybody that doesn't agree with you?" Okay. I think that was, that's just rude. Okay. And I would say so. Bugs Bunny is the forerunner. He's the prophet of Fangs, but he's not the true Fangs. It's quite possible. Oh, I know. And I feel like that's where it comes from. I know that. So yeah, we're gonna do it. We're graduating Fangs to deity status. I'm gonna make him into a demigod. So I don't know. maybe perhaps we'll say Zootopia is false scripture. We got to have real scripture. Trix is the official cereal of the cult of bunny, cult of fangs. So, so there's that. Oh, oh my goodness. Yeah. Honestly, Alex, I just find that so like I'm not. I mean, if hell, I would guess I would go with a hypothetical. If hell exists, okay, yes, I'd rather go there because I don't want to sit there and genuflect to a God for eternity. The fact that such a God needs me to genuflect for all eternity seems kind of weird to me anyway. What kind of God is that? And the people that end up, according to all these people, going to hell are much more entertaining and much more cool to hang around. So, if I got to hang around for eternity with a bunch of people, there's the vast majority, the better odds of finding somebody I'll agree with is in hell because, Jesus says it himself, the way is narrow and few that be that find it. And the way to destruction is broad and a whole bunch of people go that way. So, I'm going to play the odds. So, with all the scientists in hell, they probably have air conditioning by now. That's probably true. I this has been, I used to ask that question as a Christian. Well, where the hell is it? Where the hell is hell? It's like I it's one of the most fascinating part of religious belief is afterlife beliefs because afterlife beliefs are just stated assertions with no evidence for them. It's one of the most doggedly frustrating things about religion is afterlife beliefs because it's like you ask for evidence of a heaven and hell and they can't give it to you and they know it. Okay. If you ask an Odinist for proof of Valhalla, like, can you show me a picture? And they'll be no. So, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing because all of a sudden, does free will cease to exist in heaven? Because that's the only way I see that you're pulling it off with humans. Because sooner or later, the most righteous human being is going to say, screw this and want to be in hell. I mean, I think my favorite book on this whole thing is Job, A Comedy of Justice by Robert Heinlein, because he delves into the absurdity of afterlife beliefs. And yeah, it's great stuff. The way to destruction is broad. All right. I misquote things sometimes. Uh, Prove another dimension exists. I mean, that you just, from my perspective, whenever they do that, whenever people do that, it's like you're just punting the can. You're just kicking the can down the road. Now we got to talk about a different question. But yes, Sheol is the realm of the dead. They didn't really have a hell. I think they had like an Abraham's bosom theology developed later that Jesus refers to. The idea that the righteous get to live on, but those that are unrighteous just die. So I think Christopher Hitchens makes the remark that's the one superior thing that Judaism has. It doesn't have a place of eternal torment. It just has a place of slumber where you just fall asleep. So waiting for the final resurrection. Yeah, that's more of a newer view about hell, that it's a psychological state. But what's the point of that too? I still don't understand the point of having a place where people are punished after they've died simply because they didn't line up with somebody's theology or ideology. So, if this is creation, isn't our reality supernatural and the reality of it's why I had problems with Frank on Saturday because he he doesn't really go into how do you know there's even a difference between the supernatural and the natural, the transubstantiation and the other shit that he goes into. He doesn't really prove that. And so it becomes he just goes around in a circle about it. And so what is supernatural, what is natural becomes a real big question. And he doesn't really go into it. Yeah, Gehenna, I remember that. Yeah, I thought so, because it's like he makes it is the writer who's writing Jesus's words, they're just straight up making it up. Like, is he just making the shit up, okay, as he goes? It's one of those things in Luke that it's like he's pushing his own agenda, and that parable in itself doesn't appear anywhere else. And the idea of Abraham's bosom is the only place it's there. So I thought so. Well, yeah, if I'm gonna fucking make things up, I guess that's the way to go. Let's just go full retard, I guess. But yeah, it's like, why would the sun be hell? Okay, so then hell gives life and keeps humanity from, dying off, and so we ought to worship hell, worship the sun because we're worshiping hell. Yeah, parallel dimensions, theology is proven, yada yada yada. I get you, Ronald. I get it. It's like, damn it. Um, it's having purgatory where you can get out and actually go to heaven. That's a nice get out of jail free card. Um, I don't know. Good question. It says blood in his flesh, and that the idea of flesh that leaves a lot of room for interpretation, doesn't it? I mean, are some people waiting in line hoping they're getting certain parts of Jesus's anatomy to eat? Um, I don't know. It's a definite interesting question. Definite interesting question about those things. So yeah. Uh, yes, and Jesus was referring to it, and somehow it ended up being a doctrine of hell. It's kind of oh, gosh, a counter deity. Why do we need a counter deity? Fangs is all in all his fangs. I don't know. I'll have to think on it. Seeing that the religions are represented by vegetables, we need like a super vegetable, like a superfood vegetable to represent the counter, trying to stop fangs. I could see that. Yeah, and Satan's a cooler guy though, and I don't want that. I want fangs to be the cooler one. So remember, we're making this up. Okay, we're like all theology and religion, we're making it up, so we can do whatever we want. It's the beauty of writing fantasy too. You can do whatever you want within reason, I suppose. Uh, Elmer Fudd, maybe. I don't know. Elmer Fudd's already got problems. Yes, the god of carrots. Interesting. No, I don't. Um, there's no evidence for an afterlife, and there's no evidence for a soul either. When somebody proves those two things exist to me, then I'll, with good evidence, instead of just asserting it, I'll be glad to change my viewpoint. But until such time that happens, maybe that is a superfood. I mean, we need to have something that gets mad that Fangs eats the religious vegetables. So Yeah. I mean, I've always liked Hitchens on this one too, because with all these Abrahamic religions, you die and then the fun really begins. So it's like, I love that line. At least you can die and get out of North Korea, but you can't with Abrahamic religions. You can't die and get out of them. So yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. The constant battle between fangs, money, and some super carrot, super vegetable. Uh, some mistakes of Moses by Robert Ingersoll. It sounds familiar. I You got to understand, when I was in seminary, I was reading so voraciously that I probably read a lot of crap, and it's the problem with reading a lot at once is a lot of it just leaks right out, and you don't even remember that you read it. Um, I mean, I've read all of Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion and some of his commentaries, but if you asked me to quote them, I probably wouldn't tell you. But yeah, but mistakes of Moses, yeah, like first mistake, prove you exist. Oops. Evil Brussels sprouts, God. I don't know. Somebody would come along and say we're picking on Brussels sprouts. So, but I don't know. I mean, Moses. Moses made a lot of mistakes in the story, like killing people because they rise up against your people. That's probably a bad one. It seems to color the whole religion afterwards. Circumcision, I would say that was a bad one. I mean, I guess I would like to know what he considers the mistakes of Moses. So, yeah, it's been an interesting thought for me because I'm getting to the age where my kids ask annoying questions like that. And my whole thoughts are like, what do you want to do if you end up in a vegetable state? I'm like, pull the fucking plug. I mean, it's like, I've lived a good life. I'm content, with how it ended. And when it's over, I won't give two damns about it anymore. So it's like, um, depend. I don't know. They avoid this one, Triple E. They like to come to Deconversion Hangout or my Saturday stream, probably because they have more time on their hands. But this one, I'm like, literally, it's an open forum to anybody who wants to come here and yap, and they don't show up a lot. So there's that. I think that's one of the biggest reasons I fight this stuff is how much time is wasted engaging in a fantasy because you want to live longer or live forever or whatever. Um, a chinchilla, like a mouse, a squirrel, and a rabbit had refused to live a child. Oh, that I would like to see you artistically render that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it sounds so familiar. I know the name. I just don't know if I ever read him, and I'll have to look it up now. Um, I've been like doing a lot of Bertrand Russell lately, so I would say those are two different things. There are religions, for instance, that believe in souls. Like I would look at Buddhism as they believe in supernatural stuff, but don't necessarily have a deity. So those are two different, very different questions. The actual existence of an immortal soul would, okay, it still begs the question how it gets there. and who is it created, or is it come about simply because of life, or you could have a million theories of how that works. Theology is, after all, flexible, very flexible. Russell Sprook. I'll pray to Fangs at that moment. Yeah. Valid point. Yeah, I also would agree with Grumpy. It's also a good reason not to believe in souls. So you have to have kind of the same proof for each. They're both theological claims that have no evidence. And how do you falsify them? Okay, so smash the only real proof of God, that God actually touched some tablets. Yeah, I think that would be, if that's him, then yeah, I'm in agreement. A lot of religion is just silly, and when you really do it, you became a tribune, Triple E, and that goes the power of modding. You pay for that. If you abuse the privilege, though, I can take it away, but I don't think you will. Um, it's because you've invested in the channel and the reg at a high level. I figure you should have some say in what the community is like. So other mods are volunteers, but some people have the privilege. I think Lisa is also a mod because of that. Because I want you to have the ability to defend yourself. So, and have some say in what the community is. That's why I do that. Yes, best dressed contest. Oh, okay. Very well. Good. Well, it's not a, it's, thank you for supporting this channel. I appreciate my members so much, even the donated ones. It's like, um, man, I, it means a lot to me, more than just the money. There's definitely some emotional. Thank you very much for me. Thank you for investing. I'm not sure what that means, but I think the biggest lie of Islam is that Muhammad went into a cave illiterate and came out with a book. Okay, that's got to be the most unbelievable origin story I've ever heard, and yet people believe it. So, yeah, soul would be outside of existence. So if human beings have souls, it's inside of existence. So there's that. I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, what we call a soul, I would agree is you can look at it from a psychological, neurological point of view. People identify that part of us that seems unphysical, but it really is physical manifestation. I've fasted for 30 days, so and it's not necessarily bad for you. I wouldn't go more than 12 hours though. It just kind of lets your body catch up. So I'm working on that. Just so everybody knows, I got a video coming out Friday. It's a reflection video, really, but it's my tentative title so far is how Good Friday contributed to me being an atheist. So it's something to that effect. So I haven't worked out the details, but I'm going to be talking about my experiences as a pastor at Good Friday services and the crosswalk I used to do and things like that, and how that kind of changed my viewpoint and perspective. So we'll see how that does that. I think for me, fasting has always been one of those things where it allows my body to catch up with getting rid of, the poison and toxins that we put in ourselves. So I always feel better after like a 12-hour fast. And then I also, a lot of people do intermittent fasting as a dietary technique, and it works for them. So, um, I'm usually on an hour 15, maybe. It depends on how interesting the discussion is, and whether my social anxiety kicks in. So, all right, but it is time to announce our winner for which religion Earl is going to do, and it looks like, yep, Pentecostals won. 37% of the vote went towards Pentecostals. Calvinists 26, Catholics 23, and Baptists were only 14. So uh, it depends. I have to get ready for work, and I leave for work at about 9 Eastern Standard, and that gives me about an hour downtime to kind of relax before I head off to work. I kind of need that on a regular basis to function. So I think it's rational religion light. Okay, I was a deist for about a year. Then I realized I was just basically keeping like the idea of a creator God, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't really have any personal value, to be honest. And it's really religious beliefs dressed up as rationality. So, because you're still making up a religion basically of a deity that wound everything up and then walked away. More believable than the omni god. The omni god has a lot of logical contradictions. So, but yeah, I don't dismiss deists, and if a person is a deist, I understand it. So I get it. So there's that. All right. Yep. We're going to do Pentecostals. You can leave some comments for Earl about suggestions on how to do that if you're a former Pentecostal. As a former Pentecostal, not all Pentecostals handle snakes, but we'll do that. I don't know. We're going to have to figure out what vegetable this is and what vegetable represents Pentecostals. It has to be something spicy to an extent. I don't know. So, because Pentecostal, weird and spicy, I think is probably a good, I don't know which vegetable fits that description. So, tough for someone in my life who abused me. I forgave them even when they never asked forgiveness, but I've been thinking, how should I feel? I think I think we've discussed this before. The problem with Christian forgiveness is it sets you up for abuse like this. And what you should feel is like, there are a couple of people I haven't forgiven, but I've like worked very hard not to let the emotions of that situation, but until they come and ask for it, I'm not going to give it to them. But yes, so I get the feeling, okay, but I just don't, I think you have to learn to start to value yourself enough where you stand up for yourself and you're not going to be a doormat. And I think Christian forgiveness makes you a doormat, and it causes you to devalue yourself. And, like, people do you harm and then somehow it's okay. And that's just not okay. So, yeah, give mercy to those that deserve it. What in the hell does that even mean? Okay. Father of Islamic knowledge. Okay. Yeah, it's a zero sum game to me. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I, radishes might work, Earl. They're colorful. They're a little bit zesty, and they're a little bit weird. They're not like a common vegetable. So yeah, that might work. I could see that. See what you can do with that one. But yes, the teaching of forgiveness, I would start to feel a little bit more angry. Anger is a good emotion if you direct it correctly, but it's like you need to have a better sense of your own personal value than to accept just forgiving everybody when they do you wrong. That just sets you up to be abused. It's why abused spouses stay in the relationship because I love them, I have to forgive them, kind of bullshit. And it's like, no, you're being devalued as a human being, and you don't have to flip and put up with that anymore. So people are falling to the floor from the spirit. Yeah, that's definitely a one. Talking in tongues. I don't know how we'd represent that, but we'll figure it out. Asparagus just because of the hair. Could be. Supposedly, yes, but there weren't real demons to drive out. I would say that Pentecostals still view certain mental illnesses and like having seizures as signs of demons. And, woe betide the child that has seizures in a Pentecostal church because one of two things will happen. They'll either say it's demons and try to drive it out, or they will say that that's a function of their spirituality and make them into some sort of super prophet, when they have these ecstatic utterances and stuff like that, coupled with it. Pumpkins, kind of spicy. Let's see. So, accepted Jew worship. Okay. All right. I think the biggest problem with forgiveness is it's focused on you need to forgive yourself for letting people walk over you and start doing better. I struggle with this too because I was so long in the Christian faith. I have a tendency to let personal insults go. That's very stoic of me too. Like the stoic philosophy kind of hits that direction. Like somebody will say, this, Ed does this, this, and this, and I'll respond like, well, you don't even know the half of it, but and but really my issue and why I go to therapy is a lot of the guilt and diminished self-esteem that I have because of what I did, as a pastor. So it's and what I accepted as a Christian. You have value. Okay. Being realistic about that value is another thing, but nobody gets to just do shit to you and expect your forgiveness. Okay. I'm sorry. That's over for me. If you do something to me, I'm going to point it out. Okay. And so that's like, it's that kind of thing. So it's, to me, I've just gotten past the idea that people need to get to use me as a doormat anymore. You'll see that every once in a while on one of my streams when people do dumb shit. Yes. And notice I didn't pause on that much because religion. I'm sorry. Religion poisons everything. Hitchens was right. It causes us to waste a whole lot of time, money, and energy that could go elsewhere to actually helping us be better humans. And it certainly creates this tribalism that keeps us at each other's throats that we don't need. As a whole, I would say religion does more harm than good. Actually, I would put it this way: religion causes good people to do harm they wouldn't normally otherwise do because they're good people. And getting rid of that impetus to make good people into bad people, I would definitely get rid of it. Yes. Yes. This is an atheist channel. Yes, this is also another benefit of non-belief, not being coerced. No, in your situation, I think a little bit of anger about what is done to you can motivate you to stand up for yourself a little bit. Okay. It's like, don't let people get away with pushing you around simply because they think you should forgive them. It's like, no, not going to do it. Me too. They made demons out of everything. Demons got in the traffic lights. Everything was a demon, or at least demonically influenced or satanically influenced. Pentecostalism hinges on that, the idea of spiritual warfare. That's another topic I could delve into. Yeah, I enjoy food too. So, uh, um, I think so. I'm going to say it that I think religion appeals to the ego and pride more than it does humility. I mean, you're claiming to know something everybody else doesn't. So everybody in church, like in Pentecostalism, there was always this one-upmanship of who had the better miracle that week. Okay, so yes, anti-Semitism probably has its roots in Christianity. They killed the Christ. It's the Jewish people that put Christ to death, not the Romans. If the Jewish leadership hadn't had a beef with Jesus, he would never have died. Which is a real weird, weird theology to have, because you need Jesus to die to redeem the sins of humanity. But at the same time, we're going to hate the Jews for killing him. It gets to be a real twisted theology. That actually appears very early in Christianity. I can't remember where, but some people that have studied Christianity says that anti-Semitism gets rid of a lot of things. So goes to the origin of a lot of what Christians did in the early days. It's weird because the early Christianity was a mix of Judaism and Gentile believers, and then slowly the Jews kind of went back into Judaism and disappeared. Yeah, it was one of the reasons Hitler gave for the Holocaust. There was definitely anti-Semitic atmosphere in Europe that Hitler tapped into, and a large part of that was the Catholic Church continued to preach that kind of thing, and the Lutherans as well. So Spanish Inquisition, yes, that's another one. Part of the Spanish Inquisition was Jews, those sort of things. They faced a lot of persecution. I just talked about why I don't debate. I'm not going to debate somebody who basically thinks it's real to pull a rabbit out of a hat. I don't accept those challenges. Never have. If you want a good rationale, there's a guy named Durante Lamar who says why he doesn't debate Christians, and my reasons are probably pretty much the same as his. So I don't accept any challenge for debate. So I'm not going to do that. And you continue to be nonsensical. Nice word salad. I don't have a problem with Buddhists. There are some sects of Buddhists that do get politically involved, though. And mostly out of necessity. Like, I think some of it started with good intentions. Like, some people were being killed and the Buddhists were doing nothing. And some Buddhists said, well, is it right for us to do nothing? And so, but then later on, there's like other things that come out of that. I don't, yeah, as Earl points out, I just don't do debates. It's never been my thing. But yes, they don't have all that stuff. I've had Buddhists come on this channel and talk with me, and I've always had pleasant conversations with them, but I'm not going to give, but some of the aspects of Buddhism, I would say, can you prove that? It's kind of like spiritualism or Wicca or a lot of other spiritual type beliefs that don't necessarily have a deity but believe in spiritual forces. Can you prove that those spiritual forces exist? So I'm a skeptic first before anything else anymore. I got pulled into a religion that turned out to be quite a large lie, and so I'm not going to be fooled again. So kind of thing. Don't be fooled again. No, and that's kind of my. You're going to have to prove your supernatural claims to me, and Buddhism has a few of those. What happens to those who don't rub the like button? They better pray they're not gardeners. So yeah, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. See, this is the beauty of theology. I can make up any shit I wanted to. So, but yes, yes, they make you feel special. This is the whole point of Christianity: is you belong to the remnant that is going to survive life after death and live in heaven with Jesus, and the rest of everybody is going to hell. This is the ego trip of religion. I know something you don't know. Um, well, he may not have been a Christian. I would agree with you, Kyle, but he certainly believed in God. He starts Mein Kampf out about the providence of God being put in his position. Certainly, the Nazi regime was very Christian in a lot of respects. He also had this neo-paganism, which neo-pagans today like reject Hitler's version vehemently for that reason. So, it's a lot of self-empowerment to handle. Yeah. I mean, there's a Gospel of Judas. You should read it, Fred, because it has a very different view of Judas, and there's probably that reason it wasn't canonized. Um, when you look at all these other, there's like 33 other Gospels that we have our hands on or know about, and you could tell why they weren't canonized, and it was purely for theological and political reasons in a lot of sense. Hinduism makes a lot of claims for itself and proves none of them. It's like any other religion to me, and more ridiculous than most. So I've studied Hinduism, by the way, basic beliefs, and I think the only thing they've really contributed is the Kama Sutra. So, and that's debatable too. He did believe in Jesus. He didn't like the religion of Christianity, though, but he didn't stop him from using it. So, and Michael would know. Michael is my resident German, so I kind of go to him for that perspective because I try to be fair. um, I get that, and a lot of Christians aren't, and for that very reason. But for a long time, like the Catholic Church, until I think it's 1966, they finally removed the whole idea that Jews were inferior because they killed the Christ, and the Lutherans, I think, about the same. So it's some of these happen. So yes, no preaching in chat, including Hinduism. Yeah, the Jews killed Jesus, so they can't wrap their head around that. Yes, there's definitely some anti-Jewish sentiment in the Gospels too, and you can get it from there too. The Jewish leaders come under a lot of fire, and a lot of that anti-Semitism comes from that. There's, um, I there was a lot of discussion about this back in the day. You could read books about that are probably banned in most countries about why the Jews are an inferior race, and they're written by Christians. So, I mean, that stuff existed. So, just because something old doesn't make it true. Okay, truth is determined by other factors. And it did have a start at some point, which means at some point the Hindu religion did not exist. And that kind of defeats your own point, I guess. So, yeah, he's contradictory. This is like, so what? It's like Christians who make the argument that the Bible's an old book, and that's why we need to, like, Hinduism has older books. So, but yeah, as far as evangelical Hindus are always amazing to me. Like, why? Okay. Yeah, there was definitely a belief in God with Hitler, and he believed that God acted in the world, and he felt he was one of God's actions. So that tells you something. So, and just because a bullshit story is old doesn't mean it's still not bullshit. So, it's that mystique that I fight against, because really, no. You can find old books within a couple hundred years ago that have, at the time, were hailed as groundbreaking information, and now it's like, yeah, half of it's wrong. So it's truth is always constantly being evaluated, Dave, and you know that better than anybody doing your channel. We're always, the guys on your show are like looking at this. It's like, I looked at this and it doesn't pan out, or, creationists still do the same bullshit lies they've done forever. They really don't change them. They might get a little new data here and there, but they don't change anything. Same with apologists. They've been doing the same thing. And I will tell you that from religion to religion, I note the same similarities. I think I'm now beginning to conclude that it's a religious thing to try to defend the nonsense of belief that you have, and it's an emotional need. So we'll see. Yeah, you had to be a theist to join the SS, as I recall. You couldn't be an atheist to join the SS. That's one thing I do know is true. It doesn't compute. Could have been. I think that might be the origins of it. That's actually one of the historical theories I've read, is that when the Jews rebelled against Rome, the Christians wanted to distance themselves from the Jews, and so, no, they're the killers of the Christ. We don't follow them. Would have been a very easy tactic for them to do. Is there any historical evidence for that? Maybe. So, but it would make a lot of sense. So, does Bigfoot have a god? I thought Bigfoot was the god. Isn't Bigfoot a demigod in some people's religions? So there's that. I'll praise the god of vegetables. A lot, or very much belief in animal spirits, I think, is the origin of a lot of theology. So, yeah, because at some point we decided to make this shit up. And before that, what did we believe in? I imagine, though, there's probably, before the existence of known religion, there were other religions that just have faded into obscurity. Every once in a while, an archaeologist will dig up something that shows this obscure religion that cults have always been around in humanity. So I imagine belief systems have shifted. So, yes. Hey, Pinworm. Coming in at the end of my stream, but as always, super fashionably late, Pinworm. Super fashionably late. So, we did end up in the camps. So I remember reading about that. So as one of the claims that theists like to make is that Hitler's Nazi Germany was like this atheistic thing. And it's like, no. He didn't even believe in Darwinian evolution. He believed in other forms of evolution that have since been debunked. So, and chopped up the German words. Yeah, Michael is my resident German, and and he clarifies things for me. Yeah, I mean, you have an entire Old Testament of good people being asked to do horrible shit. So I mean, it's like we said earlier. This is what happens. So they also invented some. Yeah, I think we were discussing their view on art, me and Earl, in a private conversation. The denigration of art that the Nazis believed in, and then what they considered good art and bad art. And makes me wonder about certain people today. All right. Well, I have got to call it quits, folks. I've got to get something to eat mostly and get ready for work. But it's been a good stream, good discussion. Thanks for those of you that donated to Cranky Elder. And thanks for some of you who have become like Triple E, moved up your membership from Rabyd Citizen to so that and all that. So yes, that's what it was. Yep. But thanks everybody for coming by. I appreciate all of you coming here and doing the things that you do. I think it's become a good tradition to have some good discussions on Rapid Fire. So we'll see then. I'll see you in a couple days on Deconversion Hangout. But thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate the support. We'll continue to talk about things and talk about anything that chat comes up with on Rapid Fire. So thank you very much. Good discussion today, as always. Thank you to the chat. Appreciate all of you. Future things, I'm working on a video for Friday about how Good Friday is some of the things that Good Friday taught me experientially, kind of pointed me away from faith to, and that I think that'll be a good reflection one to get back into video making. I have to kind of be reflective when I start doing that again. And hopefully you'll start to see more videos each and every week. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate all of you. Have a great evening. I'll see you all in a couple of days. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you take all your time, your money, your energy, your opportunities, and spend them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you all next time.